Hello, everyone. My name is Katie Cleary, and I am a program manager here at Magic. I am so excited because today I have with me one of the lovely mentee mentor pairs from SKA, and I'm so excited to sit down and talk with them about their project and working together this past session. So we'll start off by having the two of them introduce themselves. Illyana, if you could start us off.
Hi, my name's Ayala C. I'm a ninth grader at SKA, and I was in the magic program.
Wonderful. And Ayala, if you could also introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Ayala Cohen. I am currently working at Salesforce. This was my first time as a mentor for the Magic program, but my daughter was actually a mentee a few years back, and that's why I wanted to pay it forward and join the program.
Wonderful. Well, thank you both so much for taking the time to sit down and chat with me. First of all, I just wanted to say congratulations on an amazing session and wonderful presentation this past week. You should both be so proud of yourselves, and I'm so excited to dive in a little bit more about your project. Ileana, can you just tell us a little bit about your project and what made you choose that as your focus for this session?
So, my project is baking bread to see how the amount of time rising impacts its density. I chose this project because I love to bake and it's really fun, and I would have a lot of like bread at home. Um, and also I've had it where like I left like bread, like the dough in my locker and I forgot it the next day and then I bring it home and then I can't bake it. I have to throw it out. So I was wondering like how long can it rise until it's like no longer good?
So from the start, I was particularly intrigued by your project because it has to do with food science, and that's not a typical area that Magic has had projects um, be presented in before. And so, is food science something that you've always been interested in, or was this your opportunity to sort of learn more?
So I wasn't always interested in it, but I always loved to
Mhm.
watch baking shows and like stuff like that. So this was my opportunity to like learn more about it and actually like be involved.
Okay, wonderful. And so from that, first interest to the completion of your project, which I understand also included some data analysis,
Mhm.
um, what are some, if you can think of like one or two main takeaways that you learned from your time in the kitchen and doing the data analysis?
So some main takeaways. Well, I learned how to do data analysis, which that's like a very big takeaway. And I also learned how to actually bake bread because I don't think I've ever actually done it before. I've just like braided or like put it in the oven, but I've learned how to actually bake it. So those are two big takeaways, I guess.
Mhm. Wonderful. Well, thank you. And Ayala, a question for you. I think a lot of times when people hear of programs such as ours, they immediately think of the mentee learning from the mentor. But can you just touch on some things that you learned yourself from working with Ileana, whether it's on the project itself or just from, the way she handled certain tasks, things like that?
Yeah, so we picked this topic because it kind of bridges Liana's interest in chemistry with my expertise in data and analytics. And so I learned how to apply what I know from marketing intelligence, marketing research. My background is in data for business applications and how to apply that to a science experiment. So I've never really worked through an experiment like this before. I've taken science classes, but never really been hands-on, or even just involved in the data analysis of the experiments. And so it was kind of fun to figure out how we needed to structure data collection and which of the tools would be the best tool for data analysis. And I learned also that, you can figure out at which point of rising the bread becomes the lightest and fluffiest, meaning the least dense, and that point where it's kind of like at its optimal point, and then it actually gets more dense the longer you let it rise. So that was a new finding for me, was that if you let it rise for a certain amount, it's good, and then if you let it rise for too long, then the bread is not so good anymore. So it was interesting to see how we were able to pinpoint that based on the data collected in the experiment. And I really enjoyed the aspect of seeing the data come to life when we were kind of using the tools to visualize the data and find that optimal point.
Mhm. Yeah, no, I think that it's so important for everyone to kind of understand that this is how we find out information, and kind of bringing, like you said, bringing the data points to life. And, some of these real world applications, and thankfully Magic and other programs like us bring these opportunities to people who otherwise may not have access to these types of programs. So, um, thank you for touching on that. Illyana, you are a ninth grader, and so you're really at the beginning of your high school career. And after completing this program, do you think you have any more, whether it's appreciation or interest in the STEM area as far as careers now that you've completed the program?
Well, I've always had an interest in like a career in STEM. So,
Hmm.
I mean, this actually like made my like idea more like real and like
Yeah.
closer. So, but like I think it's around the same. Like I always had like a big interest. So,
Hmm. That's
mhm.
wonderful. I'm so glad to hear that. The world needs more women in STEM, so I'm so glad that you will, a few years from now, be joining the forces.
Mhm.
But um, think back to the beginning of the year when you were just learning of magic and maybe you were nervous to apply. What is something that you would tell, whether it's one of your friends or maybe a new student at your school, who they might want to apply, but they're not quite sure? What piece of advice would you give them, or, a little bit of encouragement to apply for a program?
So I'll probably tell them that they would learn a lot, but it does take a lot of commitment and time. But
Mhm.
like they would end up really enjoying it, and they would get something like big out of it. But like they have to be ready.
Mhm. Yeah, wonderful. No, those, I think that's spot on and perfect. It is a large commitment, but we always tell people you're in the driver's seat and you get out of it what you put into it. And it's very clear that you put a lot into this and you learned quite a bit from your experience. And Ayala, we're so excited because you came to us to mentor because your older daughter was a former mentee. So can you just share a little bit what it's like from maybe the parent perspective turned mentor, and why you think more women in STEM should become magic mentors?
Yeah, so my daughter had a really wonderful experience. She had a
Mhm.
fantastic mentor in Julia Harper. Even though there was a physical distance between them, they became pretty close during the time that they worked together. And Julia even made the trip into New York from Boston. I was extremely grateful that she was willing to, do that and to help my daughter through the program. I saw that my daughter got so much out of it. She really loved it and enjoyed coding, learning to use an Arduino, and all those things really lit a spark in her. She's actually now she's a bio major and chemistry minor in Queens College because of the program, and she hopes to go to medical school. So the program really did kind of focus her interest in STEM. And when I saw how much my daughter got out of the program, I really wanted to be a part of it. And this year I finally had the opportunity to join.
Yeah. Well, wonderful. We're so thankful that you joined as a mentor, and it's very clear that the two of you got so much out of the experience and learning from one another. And so I just want to say again, congratulations on such an amazing session and a beautiful presentation, Illyana. And you both should just be so proud of yourselves.
Thank you.
Mhm.